We waiting on what's her name?
Yeah.
The first one, Lawrence Street.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Conservation Commission meeting for Wednesday, October 11th, 2017. In compliance with the Commonwealth of Massachusetts open meeting laws, we are being videotaped today, not audio. Okay. First, we have on the agenda, we had a short meeting here with Mark Strahan. Is Mark here? Is he? Okay, so Mark is going to lose his chance because we have back-to-back hearings. So, was he the one that canceled the last time here in September?
Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was the Lawrence Street?
Yeah. Pardon me?
That was the Lawrence?
No, that was
No,
a meeting with the
Oh.
Fleetwood man. So if he's not here, we can start. All right. See, at 7 o'clock, we have a request for determination for Lawrence Street Bridge at Bush Pond. We have someone here for the applicant.
You can put that up there.
Good evening. My name's Bill Scully with Green International Affiliates. I'm representing DePlacido Development tonight related to this request of information. So,
No, go ahead.
okay, so what we're here tonight is just to inform the board and hopefully get an okay without any difficulty of some some testing that we want to do. So this is in relation to the Abbeville project, the proposed development off of Lawrence Street, and in working on that project and going through the public review process, working with town officials, and we know, like, the bridge on Lawrence Street is in need of repair, and in the last month or so, people have brought up the causeway on Lawrence Street between the two bodies of water to be modified, and on top of that, a pedestrian. And from the beginning, we've talked about trying to provide pedestrian improvements along Lawrence Street from Park to the project. I haven't, what was submitted was, I believe, this plan or something similar to it. And just to give you orientation, so Park Street would be over here to the right of the plan, and the development is up here. So the bridge is this area colored in orange, and then this is the causeway. The causeway is about 20, it ranges between probably 19 and a half feet to, there's been spots where we've measured maybe 20, almost 21 feet of pavement. There's a couple of feet on either side that is soil. It drops off from the pavement down to the pond. And so what came up through all these discussions is looking at the potential for widening the causeway to 24 feet of pavement. And to do that, it takes a lot of different things, but one of the first things we have to do is we wanted to do cores in the road right now to see what is the road made of in terms of the level of pavement in the base condition, and then right off the edge of pavement, but not in the water, do some additional testing to see what that soil condition is like. If this road is widened to 24 feet, it's likely that a wall would be installed along the edge of road, potentially in the water on the edge, to fill and then allow the roadway to be widened to the 24 feet of pavement. So we wanted to test those areas just off the road. Now, on top of that, there's two different ideas being talked about for pedestrian access.
Wow. The fuck, country.
And they both are more likely to be boardwalk type facilities, not cement concrete or bituminous type facilities. And also shown on this plan in crosshatch is a potential boardwalk that actually goes out into the pond, maybe about 10 feet or so. It hasn't been, this is just conceptual, so it hasn't been really finely defined in terms of its location, but approximately about 10 feet off the roadway itself. Or another option may be some form of boardwalk cantilevered off the wall if the roadway is wide and we have to put a wall in. So on top of the cores that we want to do in the road and just off the road, we also want to do some testing in the pond at a couple of spots. So at the beginning, so this is the bridge, and a boardwalk, if it was in the water, would come off the bridge and then run essentially parallel to the road. So what we're proposing to do is take a boring location at the beginning there, in the middle, and at the end, where it would start to tie down back to land. And this is this plan. It does show wetlands. It's not a formally approved wetland delineation. It is based on some of the latest information. There will be filing with the commission for determination for an approved wetlands area, but we've taken that into account. These are approximate locations so that any of the testing, particularly off the edge of pavement, will site where there's very little vegetation around there. And I think that's it. We don't have anything scheduled. We're in the process of requesting bids from boring contractors and geotech consultants. But we would be expecting that we'd have the testing probably taking place sometime within the next 21 to 30 days.
How far are the test borings going off of the pavement?
Going off the
How
pavement?
far out into the pond are they?
It's okay. So, well, everything on the edge is obviously it's not in the
I
water.
understand.
So this one is probably within 5 or 10 feet of
Yeah.
land. These two are roughly about 10 to 15 feet off the edge of roadway.
10
into
to
the
15
water.
feet.
Correct.
Is the 15-foot one because you,
I'm just approximating.
yeah,
don't
I
have-
understand, because the roadway going to be 24 feet wide, it's 20 feet wide, but you still are going to need, after the 24 feet, a couple of feet of gravel on either side of the pavement, just to make it stable. You're not having pavement right up to the edge of the right-of-way, correct?
Well, we haven't designed it yet. What we are looking at is trying to minimize treatment on the south side,
Right, I understand.
trying to do the widening on the north side with a wall and the asphalt probably going right up to the wall. We're not, and again, I can't say for sure, but we're not looking at trying to fill. We're trying to minimize
I understand.
fill.
I understand that.
So the 10 to 15 is I'm just approximating what we were talking about. If the boardwalk was in the water, and the boardwalk we're talking about is roughly 6 feet in width.
Yeah, the boardwalk in the water would talk about pilings going into the pond on either side, correct?
Correct.
My suggestion to you is, only from me, not for the rest, but I've been one of the ones that are in the negotiations with the developer for the number of years. The boardwalk idea actually coming off the wall was my idea, and if you want success as far as my single vote is concerned, you're going to find a way to bracket this boardwalk onto the existing wall structurally and not have to do separate pilings out into the pond, because you understand the shading of the pond is also considered an alteration of the pond if the shading is so much. So
Correct.
my suggestion to you is to try to find, I know you can, because I talked with your engineer, find a way to put the brackets off of this wall. If we're ever going to let you put a wall in our pond, You've got to make sure you find a way to put the bracket so the boardwalk is less obtrusive. That's why my suggestion that if you're doing test pits 10 to 12 feet out in the pond, you're wasting your time. The test pit should be going out probably at the far edge of the boardwalk, which is going to be whatever 5-foot sidewalk boardwalk off of the roadway. And the other thing we also spoke about, you keep this in mind with your design engineer, a 24-foot wide road with a wallway leaves almost no tolerance for two different vehicles going back different directions at a reasonable rate of speed. What's the rate of speed there, 25 miles an hour? So in order to accomplish that with two vehicles going in opposite directions, you're going to need some type of a tolerance. Because right now on the pavement, on one side or one spot, there is no tolerance. You go into the drink. So we want to avoid that. If you're going to do all this work and fill in a pond and reconstruct this and try to build homes, this thing is going to have to be done exactly right. And as far as we're concerned, money isn't even the issue. This is going to be done right. So if you got 24 foot of pavement, there should be a cushion on either side. So if somebody has to go off to the side because of whatever reason, there's a cushion there for them. And this was all talked about over the past, and hopefully you get this thing engineered. But to getting back to just the conversation, the conservation aspect of this from our board, I would not want to see the pilings out any further than need be, assuming that the walkway is going off the wall. And normally when you do these test borings, you're going to get approval for our agent on the person that's doing the borings. We want to check the caliber of the person doing them and their background. So all that in mind, I'm going to open up to any other questions from the board.
So can I just say
Sure.
one thing before I try to answer more questions? So I understand what you're saying, and we are investigating that option of the bracket and what that would do.
I understand.
So a couple things that we're trying to take into consideration, and we're early in the process, so we're trying to minimize the amount of fill and
I
come in
understand.
under 5,000 square feet.
I understand.
We know we have to replicate, even if we're under 5,000. So we have some areas that we have in mind for that. And I'll say this in very preliminary, it's not verified, so I'd want to confirm it. But our initial thought on the bracket option is that the walkway would be, fairly low, almost, even with the roadway. You'd be walking and here's a barrier and then the road. That being said, the boardwalk would end up having to count towards the fill because we'd be very low to the water and in the wetland. A boardwalk further out in the pond, if we're 10 feet, 15 feet out, we can go with a real boardwalk of elevated. And if we can get 6 feet high out there with the
Right.
boardwalk, then we're not considered filling.
Right, I understand.
So
You still heard
we'll
what-
we'll
yeah.
at least look at some, we'd
I
like to look at
understand, but
alternatives.
You still heard what I said.
I
All
heard
right,
com-
all right. Because basically, you got a tight fit, and so everybody knows, the length of that freeway is around 500 feet. My guess is that they have to fill in to subsidize a 24-foot roadway with 2 feet on either side is somewhere in the range of 8 feet or so. So 8 feet times the 500-foot length is 4,000 feet. And I know I'm off because in some areas it's bigger, some less. Once they hit 5,000 feet, this project turns over to the state. Now, the state comes in with a whole special filing because you're filling in excess amount of wetland as far as their rules go, so it changes the project. So that all being said, and your team knows this, you've got your work cut out. And if you think you're going to put a walkway out in the pond to save filing with the state or whatever, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not voting for that.
Okay.
So,
Can I just hear your can I just understand your problem with a boardwalk in the pond?
Yes, you're putting more pilings into the lake. I want no pilings into the lake if possible. It's bad enough you're filling in part of our pond. That's bad enough. But put two sets of pilings down 500 feet. And how far will those pilings be apart? 15 feet? I'm not an engineer, but that's a lot of pilings. And I don't want a lot of pilings there after you're filling in the pond. So you're going to make this work. And I don't know, the board, I'm sorry I'm occupying everybody's time, but I'd like everybody else to, I said my piece, but just chip in your thoughts, because right
Yeah.
now, we're only here for just a testing authorization.
So I'd like to hopefully be able to at least run all the tests, because that maybe whatever we get at 10 feet is going to be the same at 5 feet or whatever. So I'd like to
Well, that's
request
the
approval
chance
for
I
at least
guess you would-
testing.
I guess that's a chance you would take, if
Okay.
you're going out 5 feet, but your tests are out 10 feet. If you want to take that chance, well, that's up to you, as long as you're just doing the one set of tests.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. If he's saying he's testing out at 10 feet right now, if your design comes back and you're gonna cantilever off the roadway, you'll have to retest it at 5 feet, correct?
Well, that's if we have to, if a true cantilever, we won't need support on the other side, a true cantilever. So
True cantilever
it
is
really,
Oh, but I mean, maybe I shouldn't use that word, but with the wall and your extra 4
The wall is
feet,
probably going to go out about 8 feet into the pond in
okay.
the worst area. So
Okay.
I'm just saying that if he's doing test holes out 10 to 12 or whatever, I mean, if I was going to build something structural, I wouldn't be doing a test 5 feet away from where the structure's going.
well, we do have the tests right around the edge as well.
Well,
So-
that's up to
so
you.
we're
That-
with-
all of that's up to you. Where your test is up to you. You probably,
I can't test
I
10,
understand.
10 spots every 6 inches.
no, I
so-
understand. I understand. You're just
Okay.
probably not going to
Yeah.
come back and ask for more testing after you did the first set, that's all. All right.
I truly hope not.
Michelle, any questions? Let's start with
I
Michelle.
don't have any questions on the point of the testing, no. I'll
On that point,
definitely
no.
have more when you move forward.
Bruce, you all set? Pat?
I don't have any point on the testing, other than I'm not, I mean, on the boardwalk, I'm not liking it, but like I said, on
Too
the
far.
test,
That's too
We're
far
not
in the
there yet.
future.
yeah, I know, yeah, but the testing points I have no problem with right now.
The only question I have is just if they were gonna go out 10 feet, and they wouldn't need to go that far, should they do a test at 5 and 10
Well,
at the same time?
that's up to them, but they're gonna be doing one testing. Again, I'm not sure on how, on some of the roadway, there is more shoulder than not,
It's
so
wider in some spots. than
they're
others.
gonna have to have a, somewhat of a design, I would think, before they go out and do testing. If not, you know, that would be a different way of doing it from what I'm my experiences. So, as long as they do the one set of testing and come up with that. But it has to have a sidewalk because, for safety-wise, and the
I understand
sidewalk
that.
just saves in filling another 7 feet of pond. So the cantilever idea, it's down the Cape all over, actually. So we're looking to sort of copy what they did down the Cape.
I've got a question on
Sure.
the point.
Yeah.
If this passes and we allow this testing,
Mhm.
do we get any say as to who does that testing?
Yes, we do. As I said to him, we had this done before over in 106, 108 Main,
Yep.
and they did borings in the driveway. And the company, the geotechnical company, was very highly regarded. As a matter of fact, we had a member here from the DEP that sat on our board for years that knew him well. So we're looking for somebody that really is top-notch, that has a reputation, so.
You're right,
Oh.
we knew who that was. We don't
We
know
did.
who this
Or
is.
we
Right
will
now,
before.
we're talking to, we do a lot of bridge work and roadway work, and we don't do our own geotech, so we bring in geotech consultants,
We
sub-consultants.
would have to see who
We're,
those
we're using
folks,
people we trust who are Mass DOT approved, and
yeah.
so we're talking to several just in terms of their schedule and approach.
So a yes vote here would allow them
To test.
to test or allow them to bring us someone for approval to
Well,
test?
the test allowance is gonna be contingent on us approving who's doing the testing. And
Just
I'm
wanna
gonna ask
make sure
I'm gonna
that's
ask
in there.
Janet how to work that into the RFD.
That's what I'm getting at,
Yes.
So they'll have
yes.
to come back
That's fine.
again in November.
Yeah, once they do the testing, they'll have to file, if they decide to go forward, they'll file a full notice of intent for what they're doing.
But Janet approves the boring company?
Yes.
Okay.
Without the board, she can approve
Well,
it.
we have she has the mechanism to go check out the background
Right.
of who's doing the testing, so,
So when you're saying I have to come back in for a notice of intent, that's when we go for the full project.
yes, exactly.
We understand that.
I
We'll be
was- I was
we'll
asking,
be-
do you have to come back to make sure we okay the company that's doing the boring, but Janet has the power to
I
do that?
appreciate that.
Okay.
And we'll be back in also with just to get the wetlands delineation approved and all that shortly, so.
Is the board all set with the questions? Janet, you have any other questions at this stage?
I don't want to ask any questions, but I have to ask on here. I'm not familiar with boring testing at all. When they pull up this plug, is there somebody there looking at it to saying, this is crappy, let's do another one?
No. I mean, we'll be pulling up, we'll be testing, you know, you have the core, and then we'll end up having all the cores.
Yeah, you're only going to test the ones that you have marked out here, though, but you know additional ones, right?
Correct.
They're trying to,
That's our-
Janet, they're trying to
that's our
decide, when
plan.
they go deep into the ground, they want to go to an area where they've got a structural base to start to actually put a wall.
Well-
Until they go down in one borehole and find that type of
Or
material.
will they
they'll
know
keep
that
going
when
down.
when
Right,
okay.
yes.
Yeah.
So we'll know, we want to know, is it peat, silt, or where we hit
Exactly,
something?
so we'll know that from the
All right.
one test.
So
If
if-
they hit structural stuff like over at 106, 108 Main, after going down 5 or 6 feet there, if you recall, then they stop. They know they have their base to put a structure.
So just when they're there and they're doing this,
Yes.
if this one's good, but if it's not good, to go out.
No,
No.
no, no.
So
Same.
They have certain ones they're going to drill, and that's the testing they're going to do.
they typically go down to quote refusal, and then.
They will not
and
do a,
we'll have-
they
we'll
won't
have
be
a
drilling
result
holes
there,
willy-nilly.
we'll have results at all 7
When he was
locations.
saying the 5 or 10, I didn't know.
No, it's
No, that
5
was
feet or
just-
10
I was
feet
just-
off the shore.
So they're not sure yet, but it'll be one
They
or
have
the
to
other.
do a somewhat, I would guess, a sketch schematic to see what they're gonna build and then test accordingly,
Correct.
I would guess.
Conceptually, yes.
So my final question, I guess, is follow-up. So what are going to vote on is for 8 borings in total here.
Is that the number?
7.
7?
7.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have
We
8.
have 8.
8.
I have not.
Have 8?
Where do you get 7?
I have 8.
We have 8.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4,
your map
5,
isn't
6,
this-
7, 8.
Okay,
That was an English
When
major.
when Tom filed this,
That's the Boston Public School.
No more than 8 is what
Right.
we're saying.
Okay.
let's say no more than 8.
All right. Does anybody,
My
anybody
boss
in the audience here?
added
this-
one.
this file? We're all set with questions, right, folks? Members, all right. Yes, just give us your name, sir. Take a
Need a microphone.
microphone. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike Judici, Eagle Drive. Just for clarification, so are you saying that this RDA would approve them doing the drilling without having to do notice of intent for the actual drilling, let alone the construction project?
Correct.
Okay, so the borings that are going to be drilled 10 to 15 feet into the pond are going to be done from a barge, I assume?
That's my assumption, yeah.
So you're in a barge with hydraulic fluids, gasoline, out in the middle of the pond. You have no control, no conditions to put on it through a notice of
Which is why
intent
the
process.
character and the background of the folks doing it is essential.
And I agree, but I would think the commission would want to put some conditions on that drilling to protect the
Well,
pond.
if they drop anything into the pond, we don't really need any conditions. They have a violation, so they have a problem right there. So my guess is, knowing our agent, when they're doing that, they're probably gonna be, she is probably gonna be out there looking around, because that's what she tends to do. So if anything does happen, and this was the same scenario on 106 Main Street, they know that if something went according to plan, that they were gonna be stopped.
Was that in a wetland, in a pond?
Well, it's 106 Main has 2 ponds with a dirt driveway that went
Yep.
through the middle of it, and they wanted to build a structural road there, which is there now.
Okay.
So they did the same type of testing. And they had a different type of mechanism, because they had a lot of slurry that was coming up, and they had to account for that. So,
I would hope the company would have ample insurance if they had any
Sure they will,
particular
just-
difficulties, we could go after them and they would pay for all the cleanup.
It's just been my experience doing similar work that we've always been required to file a notice of intent to do this type of work, so. Not in this town, obviously.
you're welcome.
Margaret Cahaley, Cranberry Meadow Road. I just question as far as the interruption to the neighborhood, living right there, what sort of time frame? I know they're saying bringing in barges. I mean, just alone, the testing that you guys were out there doing today was, swerve around people in the middle of the street all day today. I was back and forth 6 times, just wondering
What test, that was today?
what, yeah. Yeah, they weren't measuring the roadways and such, but their equipment, their tripods were set up in the middle of the road.
Well,
and-
this is
That was
all gonna go
survey.
through the police department.
Okay, I'm
So
saying, is this gonna be
we're-
one day? Is this gonna take a week? Is
I'm-
this?
Normally, it's a day, isn't it?
Usually, well, we have,
Maybe two.
we have 7, so my guess is the roadway ones could take 1 day, and then the pond might take a second day.
Okay, so the roadway ones will be the ones that are gonna interfere with you, but they'll have police there the whole time.
I mean, we take precautions for traffic management,
I'm sure.
and we'll
I'm sure.
obviously coordinate with your office
I'm sure.
on the schedule when we
Okay.
know.
We get cut off from society when anything's not there, so.
I understand, yeah, that's it, on your own island.
Yeah, exactly.
We know we have to maintain traffic flow on the.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? All right. So basically, we have, Janet, my question to you on the request for determination, and we were talking about a negative decision with a number 2. Does that give us the right to put in conditions?
Technically, you can put in conditions according to the state. You can't enforce it. Remember the time we tried to have the trained people or sprayers?
Well, how do we work this then so we can enforce it? Do we,
But see here, we were gonna, for a negative, it's the work is within an area subject to protection, but will not remove, fill, dredge, or alter. Therefore, doesn't require the filing of a notice of intent, so.
but don't we have a section here that we've added conditions?
Do we have a copy of that?
Because I know we've added them before.
Right.
No, I don't
It's on,
think we
it's on the
have.
actual,
That's why I just wondered if we had a copy of it.
do you have the, did you prepare anything?
I got the form here. Yeah, and which is kind of bogus if they let you do conditions on the form, and then they yell at you for.
Well, I tell you, basically, I don't believe they're not gonna adhere to the conditions when this is
Right.
only step 1 of a multi-step process that needs, full signing off on, so I really don't have any problem with enforcing these conditions. We have extra cover.
Right, and then if something goes wrong, now they're in violation of the wetland laws, so
Right.
there's an enforcement order, so.
Right,
I don't think that anyone's gonna do anything.
I don't either. This is only one preliminary step.
Mm.
If everybody is content with that, a negative condition means that they were able to do this without filing a notice of intent. So if that is your wish to condition this with the approval of the drilling company, then I would take a motion to have a negative finding for the request for determination for the Lawrence Street activity.
So moved.
Second? Second. Any discussion? All right, so we will find this,
Do we vote on this?
pardon me?
Do we vote on this?
Yes, we do. All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Yes. Against?
All right, 1 against.
2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, our count's up.
All right, so the condition will be added that you approve the drilling company before work is commenced. And you probably should get us that information in time for her to do some research to check out the company, okay? All right, you're all set then, thank you. You want to pass that around for our signatures, Jan?
Yes.
And we're also putting in maximum of 8 borings.
Janet, as Dave mentioned, the maximum of 8 borings with pre-approval of the drilling company,
Yeah.
okay?
So we're signing this one and Janice just got it on one of these other pages.
Janet, you didn't check the proper box yet, right?
I know, I never do, and that's up to you guys to decide what you wanna.
you're up next.
Chairman, for the record, my name is John Glosser, Glosser Engineering, 46 East Street in East Walpole, and I'm here representing Bill Sinclair, who's the owner of the house and the property at 31 Union Street. So right down at the bottom of the hill, take a right at the rotary, and he's down maybe a quarter of a mile or so on the left. And this house is currently for sale. This house is served by a cesspool, which you can see in the back here. So in order to sell this house, the septic system needs to be upgraded to something that is acceptable to Title V and to local Board of Health. So with that, it actually was a couple of years back, we went out and did some soil testing and did a design for the upgrade, what they call an upgrade of the septic system. And that's been approved by the Board of Health. So just the way that works is right now there's a cesspool in the back. This house in the back is a walkout so that the basement floor essentially is at the same level of the ground right behind it. There's actually facilities in the basement. So the pipe actually comes under the basement floor and out through the house and down to the cesspool, which is that circle you can see in the back there. So what we do in a case like this is we intercept that with a septic tank. The purpose of the septic tank is to trap the solids. After the septic tank is just liquid, there's no solids. So the next little box shown there is a pump chamber, and there's a fairly sizable pump, a 4/10 horsepower pump in the bottom of that with some switches to turn it on and off and an alarm. And that's going to pump around in a 2-inch pipe. Now that pipe does not have to be very deep in the ground. We usually say it should be at least have about 18 inches of cover. That pipe, when the pump shuts off, will empty through a weep hole so we don't worry about it freezing. So it turns on, doses the leach bed, shuts off, and everything drains back into the pump chamber. So that little bit of excavation there along that side is really not as sort of expansive as you may think. It's a fairly shallow trench that's put in and then just covered over. They usually put sand over that and then covered over with the material that they dug out. And then there's a leach bed in the front, which you can see in this system essentially meets all of the requirements for an upgrade of Title V. In the back, you can see our wetlands that we had flagged by a botanist, Karen Skinner-Catroni, by on-the-ground survey, located those, put those on the plan, added a 25-foot sort of area where you can see where we're not planning on touching, and then just showing the rest of the construction. There will be a little bit of sloping on the right side of the building, on the right side of the leach bed. There's a thing called the breakout elevation, which we have to meet, and that's the sort of purpose of that, to make sure that the leach bed, that along the sides of the leach bed, that the ground isn't so steep that the effluent would have a chance to sort of break out of the slope. So we have a certain sloping requirement there that we have to meet. And then the only other thing is this property, believe it or not, right now is served by a well, which is right here in the left front corner of the property, just to the right of the driveway. So in Massachusetts, you can't, by Title V, have a well within 100 feet of a leach bed. So we're going to abandon the well. They can turn it into an irrigation well if they want, because that only needs to be 25 feet. But we're going to abandon the well and connect to the town's water service at that point. So some of that work is outside of the 100 feet, but some of it obviously is within. And they will be cutting across the driveway and then patching the driveway at that time. But for us, this is pretty much standard construction, there really isn't anything here that's, sort of out of the ordinary. But, we need an order of conditions. We want something, we're showing our silt barrier going around, so we want the town to give, your agent and also me some teeth to tell the contractor, hey, you gotta do what's shown on this plan or we're all gonna be in trouble. So I think us coming here actually helps me in a way because it gives me the sort of the plan to show that the contractor that this is your limit of work and this is what you have to do and these are the conditions you have to follow. So I guess with that, Mr. Chairman, I could answer any questions you might have.
I know Janet's been out to look at the site, and your comments to John are?
Well, no, it did good. John's been very helpful with meeting concerns, updates, making changes. This is a revised plan.
Yeah, so Janet gave me a half a dozen things or so, adding the floodplain, a few other things I forget, that we actually added onto the plan now.
And notes, so they would be on the plan for people, so
Right.
that stuff has been taken care of, and they don't have, to the right of the house there, they're showing that little retaining wall, that's already there. So, they've got a couple of trees coming out of the front. There's not a lot of impact with this site. So they'll be doing that little bit of grading, just to have that blend in over there on that side. So to me, it's fairly cut and dried.
Yeah, looks good. It's a good plan.
Just, so one thing, and I didn't touch on it, but there is a note on here. So one thing that we kind of get concerned about would probably be okay if we can do this, if they get this done in the next month or 6 weeks or so. But if they wait until the spring, dewatering for the tank and the pump chamber can be a concern for the board. And I did put a note on there that no dewatering can be done until they receive approval from the agent. So, we don't like to see the contractor just, stick a pump in the hole and start pumping it out,
Okay.
into the wetlands. But if positive that right now that the water table is low enough that we wouldn't hit water if we did it, in the next 6 or maybe even 8 weeks.
Okay. Questions from the board? Anybody?
No, it's good.
Kind of straightforward. Yep. Is anybody in the audience here for 31 Union Street?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Just concerned, I live right across the street, and you mentioned that they're taking.
Can you state your name for the record, please, and grab a microphone?
Hi, it's John Carter. I live right across the street. And I'm just wondering about the trees that you mentioned being cut down. Is that going to be a substantial, there's a nice big bed of trees right across the street, like they're big.
There's just 2 trees that are in the leach bed that are going to come down. One's, I don't know if you put the size on them. One's a 24-inch oak and the other one's a 16-inch ash. Other than that, that area where the bed's going is free of any large trees. There might be some saplings in there or something.
Right.
We don't locate all the
So-
saplings.
Right. So the big ones are they right along the road? I don't really see
No,
exactly
no.
what-
This is the edge of pavement here. So these trees, and then this is,
Oh, they're
has
inside
that
the
horseshoe
driveway.
driveway, so
Okay.
it's inside the driveway. They're
Great.
not out by the
Okay.
street at all.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? Right, I'll accept the motion to close the public hearing for 31 Union Street.
Make a note, okay, I'll make a motion to close the hearing for 31 Union Street.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Janet, you prepared orders of condition? Straightforward, no special conditions, I'm assuming, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah.
So, did you email these out?
No, I did not.
All right,
I don't believe I did.
why don't we just pass them around, let everybody take a glance. The main thing is there are no special conditions, everything is boilerplate, and this particular order we're signing, there's nothing unusual about the filing.
Yeah.
144?
No, nothing per se specific for this. Some of it is just tweaking ones that we had or pulling some from some
Are you
others.
guys comfortable with voting on these?
Was that?
Are you comfortable in voting to accept the orders of condition?
With us?
Yes.
I'm fine.
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't hold them up with the 6-week delay, so.
No, let's get them going.
All right. Motion to approve the,
So here's another.
Motion to approve the orders of condition for 31 Union Street.
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so you're all set, Joe. We're going to sign them right now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Janet, I can just come up and pick them up because I would be the one filing them at the registry anyway.
Okay.
Rather than sending them to the
If
applicant.
you come tomorrow, 10 o'clock or later?
Yeah. sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
good enough,
okay,
thank you.
Great, thank you.
144 here? I don't see
I
them.
don't see them.
Ain't that odd.
Oh, Ted O'Hart is at the ZBA right now.
Oh, is
Because
he?
he cut
Oh.
down trees in advance.
Yeah, I know.
Because I
heard
think
about
the
that.
discussion about,
Is his engineer coming? Because we're just
I
picking a.
don't know, because I think it
Actually, they don't
was,
have to be. We're just going to pick a consultant. Okay.
right.
Thank you.
John,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Let's go. All goes with it. All that together with it.
Do you put that underneath and?
Yes, sir.
We want to do the,
Yeah, so,
get out of the way.
seeing it's past 7:50, we're going to open up a continued hearing on the INRAD for 144 Seekonk Street, and the only purpose of this, I don't believe the applicants are here, nor do they need to be here. We're just going to pick a peer review consultant to review the property. So we have in front of us, we had two engineering firms respond to our proposal. One is Beta Engineering, one is Tetra Tech. Tetra Tech is a new person that the ZBA and the planning board has been bringing into their peer review. It's a large company with extensive facilities in different areas. The prices are just about the same. My suggestion, after talking with the ZBA, I believe through their attorney, they anticipate on using Tetra Tech for their peer review. So the only comment I have is where they're using it, if we use it too, it doesn't duplicate the services, because the ZBA will be doing a drainage study under the planning rules, and we'll be doing one under the conservation rules. So it's just sort of,
One and the same.
Yeah.
well, the one person knows all about the project.
Seems common sense, so.
We tried to do it in the past if we have the same one rather than reinventing the wheel. Did we do that on the last Cleveland? No, we weren't, yeah, we had Cleveland Street. No, we had a different one.
I can't
We
remember
had
which one.
somebody else.
But Tetra's the big one anyway, right?
Yeah.
Tetra's, yeah, they have a whole bunch of facilities.
I mean, after reading both, I mean, they have,
We just got
Quite-
these two at the last day before the
Yeah.
time limit, because everybody is so busy now, it's kind of,
I mean, their list of accomplishments and
Vast.
experience is vast.
it is, yes, they're a big, big company.
And the prices are very similar, so I mean, actually, I think
amazing how-
Tetra's a little cheaper, I think.
Yeah, it's amazing how these things are coming really close together. It's
Yeah.
almost like they colluded.
I mean, Tetra's
But-
actually $1,000, well, that's for Seekonk, that's $1,000 cheaper, so, I mean, $100 cheaper.
So you folks,
Yeah, it makes sense to use the same.
Tetra Tech,
Yeah.
sound all right? So we can have a motion to retain Tetra Tech for the peer review for 144 Seekonk Street.
Make a motion to hire Tetra Tech for the 144 Seekonk Street.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So Janet, you can let the applicant know that they need funding in place, and then we'll send the plans off and we can do the review and hopefully have it ready for the next meeting. That being said, we now will continue the public hearing for 144 Seekonk Street. The next meeting date will be the second Wednesday in November, which I believe is at the 8th that's on here.
November 8th.
Do we have somebody coming in at,
7 o'clock.
so why don't we make this at, why don't we continue this to 7:10? If somebody could.
Make a motion to continue the public hearing for 144 Seekonk Street, November 8th, 2017, at 7:10 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. On the
Sorry,
same,
Did David second that? Okay.
David seconded.
Yes, ma'am.
On the same vein, I am now going to
We can do the Enclave.
open up the public hearing, continued public hearing for the Enclave at Norfolk Village Green. We have also two very similarly priced proposals from, from Bader and from Tetra Tech. And using the same, different rationale, but we've used Bader in the past, and rather than giving one firm all the work for the next meeting, we're going to spread it out and give Bader the one for the Enclave. Does anybody have any objections? Who's the other one?
I don't know. The Enclave, the Enclave is the one behind, near the school, right?
That's the Boy Scout.
Boy Scout.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Boy Scout.
That's
the
small, right?
55
And it's
older.
really not going into any wetlands.
They
That's
did separate pages on this.
All right, we'll do that one.
It's a safety.
Two of them for the Enclave.
Yeah, 144, I'd rather have the good guys on.
Everybody else agree?
I'm okay.
So Beta will be it for the Enclave.
Do you have a question?
Yeah, the Enclave is in a wetland.
But they're not building in it. The plans don't
It's in a
touch it.
resource area.
It's in a
not
resource
the
area.
actual wetland.
It abuts all kinds of wetlands.
It does abut it, but they're not building, they're building in the resource area, they're not building in the wetlands. Their plans are, as it states now, as we saw it
You're getting
before.
caught up in the semantics. There's a stream there, there's a perennial stream there, there are wetland vegetation. The area that they're working in is in the buffer zone, abuts that. But just for your own information, where this is a state permit, the Enclave is, the state Wetland Protection Act allows them to build right up to the edge of the wetland, where our local regulations restrict it within that first 100 feet. That's the big difference in a comprehensive permit. So again, they're not in an actual wetland, but they're in the resource area, in the buffer zone.
And you guys know that there's an aquifer that runs underneath that whole area.
Yes, we know.
It's a huge aquifer.
We know. That's why we're hiring a peer review
We've
consultant.
had, my neighbors and I all had.
Incidentally, what's your name for the record, sir?
Vern Rentel.
All right, so,
I'm within 300 feet of a puddle.
pardon me?
I'm within 300 feet of a puddle.
Okay, good.
I have a sinkhole, my neighbors have had sinkholes.
We're just here now to assign.
We're just
peer
here,
review.
we're just here to approve the
I get that.
engineering.
I get that.
You'll have your time when they have the filing. We at the first
They haven't
meeting?
filed yet.
I missed it, there was some confusion.
It was active, so hopefully, it was pretty active, so we'll see what the next one, I'm sure. But this is just to get us a consultant to have a review. That's quite all right, that's quite all right, I understand. All right, so did you, in the middle of a motion, were you?
No, I wasn't even making the motion, but I
Okay.
will make the motion to, I'll make the motion to use Beta Engineering Firm as, to do the wetland study on the Enclave.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we now will continue the public hearing on the Enclave until the November,
May I
yes.
ask a question? Just so I don't get confused, was this the one that they were gonna be reviewing the storm?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
stormwater?
Yes, with the stormwater.
Oh,
Yes.
you threw me with wetlands, so it's both the
This,
wetlands and...
they're doing a delineation review, they're
They're
doing a
doing it.
drainage review, and they're doing a wetland study.
Thank you.
Make a motion to continue the Enclave public hearing till November 8th at
7:30.
7:30 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. 7:30, we have Old Cart Path. Notice of intent. Are those folks here?
Let me just see if
Why don't
they're...
you just see if they're in the hall?
Do you have anything for Holcart?
They're just filing under a
Oh,
local,
okay, all right.
a local regulation, that's all.
What does SFH stand for?
Where's that?
Says bylaw only for SFH.
This is gonna go quicker than I thought it was gonna go.
I'm just asking what that SFH stands for.
How's that? Ask her what unmarked orange flags represent.
I just want to know.
I don't know what SFH means. Chance?
It's a subject of flooding area.
Oh, subject to flood.
Acronym she's using.
No one
You're
here?
not here? All right, if that's the case, we will continue this public hearing for,
Want to give him a minute, or?
what?
Want to give him a minute, or?
No, they were
Oh,
supposed
they're
to be
already
here
20
at
minutes.
Oh, they're already late.
7:30.
We actually just got the plan. When did
No,
you get?
they're coming with it
They
tonight.
never brought
Oh.
the plan, so really, we have nothing to review at this stage
Okay.
anyway.
I'll
So
make a motion to, make a motion to
I'm gonna request to hear it
Continue.
again.
continue the public hearing for 11 Old Cart Path, November 8th at
You always have the right to
7:45
just close the
PM.
hearing anytime you want.
Until they're done.
Which means that they would, Janet, if we don't continue this and close the hearing, Michelle is asking me,
Then what?
in that case, we
I mean,
have to
no
vote.
call, no show, no anything.
Well,
I
So
was
we
out there
would,
today because they were flagging or marking things yesterday, the day before the meeting, and then I went out there today. and-
Right, I mean, they don't seem to be going
And they
by,
were supposed to be here tonight with the revised plan.
right. So, I mean, they don't seem to be showing
Complying.
any kind of common courtesy at all.
now, what is the
So what
rules?
happens if we don't continue it?
Well, if we don't continue it, then we vote to approve it or deny it. And then my next question to you, Janet, is, do they have a minimum time period to refile on a denied?
I'd have to look that up, because there's something.
And this is only the bylaw, so perhaps there is no waiting period.
I don't
But actually, as I
think
think of it, it's not a bad idea.
I mean,
That's why we're here late.
but
So now we're gonna revisit the,
I made the motion, it didn't get second, so.
Okay, so the motion was to continue the public hearing. I'm
right.
willing to accept a counter motion to close the public hearing for 11 Old Cart Path.
Can you just fill me in on what the old cart path?
Old Cat Path is a single lot that's not approved yet in there. They're near Army Corps of Engineer wetland property, and this has got nothing to do with the state laws. We have a little regulation, when you have standing water, we just want you to account for it and stay so far away. And we've had a lot of back and forth with these people on something that is really extremely minor, which is the irony of the whole thing. So I believe if we do, then they would just have to refile, repay the fees and all that, but yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
they didn't show up, they
still don't
told
have-
us they weren't gonna show up tonight, it would've been a different thing.
Well,
give me a break. I'm just,
All right, so again,
devil's advocate, I'm sorry, but, they might have called and been in an accident or so, I don't know.
I mean,
Maybe.
that could be true, but.
so anyways,
I could
we
have
have,
a house fall on me tonight.
Is
All
this
right, we have
is this their first no-show?
no, we've only had with them one.
One other
hearing
time they've-
last
yeah.
time.
And that was the initial?
Yes.
Right, I'll make a motion to, counter motion to close the public hearing on 11 Old Cart Path.
Do we have a second on that?
Dave, you involved? Yeah. Come on up here. Okay. Please.
Just because you're not in the wheelchair, that doesn't mean you're gonna roam all over.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, you're forgiven.
I want to remake that motion so Mr. Turry can hear that?
Make a motion to close the public hearing on 11 Old Cart Path.
Second.
Discussion? So after this, we will vote on this. All in favor to close the public hearing?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No.
2 noes, 4 ayes. That being said, this being closed, we can, actually, we don't have anything before us as far as a order of conditions with a denial on it, so we really have to wait until that's in front of us to vote. So we'll hold off on any vote then, okay?
Just vote on it.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, we have minutes now.
Right.
Is anybody here for the old cart path hearing? Good. Okay. Okay.
What are you guys here for?
I'm just viewing the meeting.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
sure.
you, Jim?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Jim.
Oh, potential?
Thought you could come.
You know, Mr.
The
Chair,
planning
for
board
Eric.
has not voted yet, just so you know.
Okay.
If you decided you want to bypass being an associate member of the planning board and work on the conservation, I had told Amy to tell you, as a follow-up to your letter, you submit a letter to the selectmen saying you'd like to be considered to join the Conservation Commission.
I was waiting for your decision on the planning board.
Okay, that's probably going to be at our next meeting.
Yeah, I came because my brother sent me, my brother's a bridge and road engineer. And he sent me a schematic of what the road should look like. And it's exactly what you said. It needs to be 28 feet
Definitely.
with 2 feet on either side and a 12-foot path.
Yeah, the hesitation in this whole thing, so you
So I
understand it?
don't understand why, I just texted my brother, said, this is what we have, and he texted me back in like a minute and a half, a freehand drawing of what the bridge should look like, the roadway should look like.
Well, you know, being out there, that what they're trying to work around, and that's why I sort of spoke on what my thoughts were anyway, that the roadway has to be
It's not
that
July.
wide just for safety reasons.
Yeah, we
And
never
they're
approved
worrying
July.
about the 5,000 feet
last
that,
week.
if they exceed that, it gets kicked over to the state, which is a big, big process, and it's a lengthy process and it's expensive. So once they reach that 5,000-foot fill, that kicks in. And they're really close because, like I said, the area involved is 500 feet long.
Right.
And I believe they have to fill in a good 8 feet of it to make that road 24 feet with 2
Right.
extra.
Well, what my brother
So-
said is that the diagram he showed me was the roadway, 2 feet of edging, and below the edging is a 3-foot footing. 3 feet deep, 6 feet wide, then you put 3-foot wide riprap on top of to support the roadway. So they are probably very close, if we're having to do that on both sides, of being to that 5,000.
Well, that's what they need engineering. Right now, they're just asking to
Which is why
test.
he's trying to do 4-foot shorter road.
Well, they've tried a lot. Minutes for July 12th. Motion to approve the minutes for July 12th, 2017.
These are incomplete.
Okay. No, we've been shorthanded, and,
So we will not vote on the minutes for July.
but you'll have them to review hopefully for the, or maybe she'll have time to tweak them.
What's incomplete on the July 12th one?
All those
Spaces
spaces.
here. So why don't we hold,
It looks like titles, names.
we've been shorthanded, so why don't
Sure.
we hold off on both minutes then until the next meeting, okay? We'll ensure they're complete. Anything else for us, Janet?
The open meeting thing?
Can I get turn it in?
No.
You're supposed to sign that you received it, yeah.
Okay.
John, we're in other business now?
Oh.
Yes, we are. As long
Uh,
as it's on the agenda.
Yeah. Just from the CPC,
Yeah.
Cleveland Street was brought up, that new piece of property.
Right.
And they had asked if we had any thing to say about it. And I said, we haven't talked about it since it just came on the market and we hadn't had a meeting yet. And as you know, people are trying to push it forward,
Right.
so just bringing it to
What's the number on that?
78, is it?
75.
575.
Yeah.
So old White House, 200 years old.
One across from Dooley's old house.
It's already right across from the 84 that's being built.
Almost.
Almost,
No,
right?
yeah, a little bit down the street.
Diagonally?
Yeah, about 100 feet down the street.
Yeah, last night there was a big discussion at the Board of Selectmen's meeting about it. Because there's a lot of wet areas.
There's almost like a little pond right next to it. Very small. But
Yeah,
Well, they're trying to get the town to buy it for
For the
historical
regular.
reasons.
for everything.
as you're looking at the
Yeah.
house, yeah.
The town is the first right of refusal, so.
Yeah, why not?
Okay.
I'm gonna put it on there twice, I don't know why.
Mr. Weldon, was anybody thinking about going out there and looking at the lot?
I believe they did.
Oh, okay.
I actually talked to Dr. Weber today. And yet, just from my conversation, I mean, he wants to obviously maximize his price. If the CPC or the town buys it, they have to only pay fair market value, and right now, I'm not sure what fair market value is. It hasn't been appraised, but just looking at the maps you showed me, the wetlands are all far to the right. I mean, this is ideal to put a roadway straight in with loads of townhouses on either side.
Yeah, there's,
How many
a
acres?
stream, there's a stream that comes right down the right side of it, I think.
18.
Yeah, the wetland's on the right side, but it,
Yeah,
It goes all the way
how
out to
many
the
acres
power
is it,
line.
18?
yeah, it's 18.
18 acres, yeah.
Yeah.
And it would connect two other pieces of land we own that are landlocked.
Connects to his other property that he left to the town. Right, right.
How much frontage does it have? Do we know?
Decent
Well,
frontage.
well, it has a house there,
Yeah,
a
the house and a
historical
garage.
house, and then it's got probably a 50-foot right-of-way. And that's right tight in where the wetlands are,
But
but
I
again,
mean-
the state permit, he goes
Go
right
right through.
through.
With, no, not frontage, though, you couldn't do more than one.
One house and no
Oh,
one
yeah.
house up front, yeah.
Oh, yeah, with regular, yeah, and you need a special permit for that.
But the- isn't they
You
trying
get an
to,
estate lot for something like that.
ain't they trying to dig up something historical on the house?
Oh, there is.
It is.
Is
It's
it?
200
Town
years
selectman
old.
was born there or lived there for years.
Yeah,
Well,
what did
that's
he
another
do?
one. That's on Myrtle Street.
No, the one, they said that
Helen
one
Clary lived on Myrtle Street.
Yeah.
Dr. Weaver lives on Cleveland.
but if somebody in his family was.
Maybe it was, because it's an old Norfolk family.
Well, an old Norfolk family, but what kind of historical significance is that?
No, just the
oh,
houses.
It has to be, it has to be state or national, it can't be town.
We're gonna end
Talk
up,
to the committee
we could
down.
put another big project in there, and we could,
Yeah.
Cleveland Street, just one big parking lot.
Hey, I like that.
Well, hey,
we're gonna
no one can
protect
get
your
in or
house
out,
when
go
we're done.
anywhere. Hey, great.
I'll be out of this
complain about
town
traffic
before,
on-
before everything
Hey.
is, before people move into any one of these things, I should be gone.
We'll still protect your house. That's what Pat, famous conservation member,
I'll be in the Carolinas laughing at yourself.
Well, if I wasn't on a dead end with conservation land behind me, I would have been out of here already.
Cleveland Street. If they
I'm on
ever-
conservation land,
If
too.
somebody bought that to build, there would be a problem. Could be a lot of units there.
Would be what?
Could be a lot of units right at that same
Disaster.
basic area.
Disaster.
Yeah, what's going on at the one across the street?
Disaster.
That's 32.
The old pig farm, is it?
Oh, hard property.
I can't even, I
That's another 40B?
get sick every time I look at it.
The pricing they have on this, the Cleveland Street one for $775, that's 40B pricing, because
Oh, yeah.
that's not what the house and a lot are worth, you know, that's
Mm-hmm.
40B pricing, so. And the irony is, the person,
775 would be 40B pricing?
yeah, because that house probably is only worth, I don't know, 300, and an estate lot in the town is probably worth 250. The irony is, Bill Freilich, the person that's the broker, he is Kathy Campbell, one of the abutters to Cleveland Street, the
Yes.
direct abutter's husband. So they were quite vocal at all the hearings for 84 Cleveland Street,
But they're silent on this.
and now he is selling that house across the way priced as a 40B, so.
And he's silent.
He's
For
the
where?
realtor for it.
Yes.
And he lives across the street.
Should we
Yes.
close our meeting before
Yes, we should.
continue?
Oh, yes.
Oh, if I.
Make
may-
a-
More
No, no,
things to
wait,
say.
hey, please.
Fine, make a-
Open meeting, the sign sheet, I got it from David and Michelle.
Patrick.
Patrick.
Pass that down to the teacher.
Tom, did you give me? The front sheet just needs to be signed on that.
She's just a study hall monitor.
Am I have to
There
school?
you go, Miss Ratchet.
That's it. Stop.
Motion to close the,
Make a
Second.
motion to adjourn.
I'm asking for a motion.
Damn it.
So moved.
You're first, Michelle second,
Okay, second.
all in favor?
Hi.
All right, we're all set, thank you.
Who did it? David?
No, I got
Patrick and
overruled.
Michelle.
Patrick.
Yeah.